Detroit was polished. Detroit was choreographed. Detroit wore suits and went to etiquette school and called itself Hitsville, U.S.A. Memphis didn't care about any of that. Memphis recorded in a converted movie theater. Memphis let musicians argue about the arrangement at 8 in the morning. Memphis had no finishing school, no quality control meeting, no Barry Gordy deciding whether your record was good enough to exist. And in that converted movie theater on East McLemore Avenue, a label called Stax Records gave chances to people Motown didn't want. People who sang too raw, too hard, too real for Detroit's hit machine. Some of them became the greatest soul artists who ever lived. And then Stax collapsed, taking everything with it. This is the countdown of 10 Motown rejects who became Stax legends and then lost it all. Real stories, verified facts. Let's go. Number 10, Johnnie Taylor, Who's Making Love, 1968. Johnnie Taylor had a voice that could make a preacher question his faith. He had been singing professionally since the early 1950s. Doo-wop with the Five Echoes in Chicago. Gospel with the Highway QCs. And then the Soul Stirrers, where he took over the spot vacated by Sam Cooke himself. He recorded blues and soul for Cooke's own SAR and Darby labels through the early 1960s with limited commercial success. When those deals dried up, the Detroit machine was right there. But Motown never picked up the phone for Johnnie Taylor. Stax did. He signed with the label in 1966. For 2 years, he had moderate R&B hits. I Had a Dream, I Got to Love Somebody's Baby, good records, nothing explosive. Then in 1968, Stax brought in a Detroit producer named Don Davis, who had been working deep inside the Motown system. Davis knew exactly what was missing. They teamed him with Taylor and gave him a song written by 4 Stax staff writers. A sly, sassy, impossibly groovy track about a man who comes home to find his woman has been entertaining someone else. Who's Making Love? It hit number 1 on the R&B chart, number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. It sold over 1 million copies and became the first major hit for Stax after losing its distribution deal with Atlantic. It single-handedly kept the label alive when it was on the verge of collapse. Stax dubbed Taylor the philosopher of soul. He went on to score 8 consecutive top 10 R&B hits. He was their salvation. Then Stax went bankrupt in 1975. Taylor lost his momentum, his label, and most of his royalties. He found his footing again at Malaco Records years later, but the peak, that incredible run where his voice saved a label, was gone. Number 9, Wilson Pickett, In the Midnight Hour, 1965. I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour. Wilson Pickett was born in Prattville, Alabama, and moved to Detroit at age 14. He sang gospel with the violin airs. He joined the Falcons, a Detroit R&B group that would produce future Stax legend Eddie Floyd as a bandmate. He tried to build a career inside the Detroit machine. It didn't happen. Pickett's sound was too raw, too preacher-born, too drenched in sweat and Alabama cotton fields for Motown's polished crossover formula. Atlantic Records signed him in 1964. His early New York sessions went nowhere. Producer Jerry Wexler sat across from Pickett's failed recordings and said bluntly that they were not the right people to write for him. He needed to be back down south. He needed R&B musicians. He needed Memphis. So Wexler sent him to Stax. Pickett walked into the converted movie theater on May 12, 1965. He met guitarist Steve Cropper. That night, they went to the Lorraine Motel, the same motel where Martin Luther King Jr. would be assassinated 3 years later, and wrote a song together. The next morning, they recorded it live with no overdubs. Every musician in the room played simultaneously. One take became the master. In the Midnight Hour went to #1 on the R&B chart. It entered the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999. It was selected by the Library of Congress for the National Recording Registry in 2017. Pickett's personal demons eventually overtook his career. Alcoholism, cocaine, violence, arrests. By the mid-1970s, his chart run was over. He died in 2006, never having fully reconciled the violence in his private life with the extraordinary tenderness in his voice. Listen, 90% of you watching these videos right now ain't subscribed yet. If these stories are blowing your mind, imagine what you're missing. Hit subscribe, turn on that bell, and join the R&B fans who never miss a Groove Lens upload. Number 8, Eddie Floyd, Knock on Wood, 1966. Eddie Floyd grew up in Detroit. His uncle Robert West ran the Lupin and Flick record labels, two early competitors to Berry Gordy's operation. Floyd was inside the Detroit music world from childhood, watching Motown take shape from the outside. He co-founded the Falcons, a Detroit vocal group that also included Mack Rice and a young Wilson Pickett. The Falcons had a top 20 pop hit with You're So Fine in 1959. When the group fell apart and Pickett went solo, Floyd went to Washington, D.C. and met a local DJ named Al Bell. When Bell signed on as promotions director at Stax Records in Memphis, Floyd came with him. He arrived at Stax as a songwriter and producer, working with Steve Cropper on material for other artists. Then in the summer of 1966, they met at the Lorraine Motel for a writing session. A thunderstorm was raging outside. Floyd started talking about childhood superstitions, hiding under beds during storms, knocking on wood for luck. As within hours, they had a song. It was originally written for Otis Redding. Jim Stewart thought it sounded too close to In the Midnight Hour and shelved it for nearly a year. Al Bell personally championed it, drove it to radio stations in Baltimore and D.C., worked it by hand for 2 weeks straight. Knock on Wood hit #1 on the R&B chart in November 1966. It has since been covered by over 100 artists: David Bowie, Amy Stewart, Bruce Springsteen, Count Basie. Amy Stewart's disco version went to #1 on the Hot 100 in 1979. When Stax collapsed, Floyd lost his publishing royalties. covers kept coming. He eventually joined the Blues Brothers band on world tours, but the fortune that should have followed Knock on Wood never arrived. Number 7, Isaac Hayes. By the Time I Get to Phoenix, 1969.
You know when they say love makes the world go round, that's the truth.
Isaac Hayes grew up poor and orphaned in Covington, Tennessee. His mother died young. His father abandoned the family. His grandparents raised him on a sharecropper farm.
And he fell in love when he got out there.
He taught himself piano, saxophone, and organ. He hitchhiked to Memphis looking for a future. He found Stax Records.
This young man was raised.
For years, Hayes worked as an invisible engine inside the label. A session musician, a songwriter, a producer. Along with partner David Porter, he wrote Soul Man, Hold On, I'm Coming, and When Something Is Wrong with My Baby for Sam and Dave.
She'll be right.
He was the architect behind some of the greatest soul records ever made. He had no profile, no marquee status, no name recognition outside the industry. Motown never came for him.
By the time I make
Detroit had no use for a behind-the-scenes black man from rural Tennessee who played piano by ear and wrote raw, emotional soul. Then, in 1967, Otis Redding, Stax's biggest star, died in a plane crash. Stax also lost its entire back catalog when it split from Atlantic Records. The label was in financial freefall. Al Bell made a desperate move. He ordered every artist on the roster to record new material immediately to replace the lost catalog. Hayes was pushed in front of a microphone. His debut album had flopped.
Stop at lunch just to give her.
This time, he demanded complete creative control. The result was Hot Buttered Soul, 4 songs, 45 minutes, including a 19-minute version of the country hit By the Time I Get to Phoenix that started with 8 minutes of spoken word and built into one of the most overwhelming vocal performances in soul history. The album went triple platinum. Stax was saved. Hayes became a superstar. In 1971, his theme from Shaft won the Academy Award for Best Original Song, the first Oscar ever won by a black person in a non-acting category. Then the financial rot inside Stax caught up with him. By 1974, Hayes was deeply in debt. He sued Stax for $5 million. The label collapsed in 1975. His entire Stax catalog was locked up in bankruptcy proceedings. He spent years rebuilding from near zero. Number 5, William Bell, You Don't Miss Your Water, 1961, / I Forgot to Be Your Lover, 1968.
Love me.
William Bell was a Memphis native who had been singing and writing songs since the late 1950s. He was one of the very first artists Jim Stewart signed to Stax, recording even before Otis Redding walked through the door. His debut single, You Don't Miss Your Water, was released in 1961 and became a foundational text for what Southern soul music would sound like: raw, direct, devastatingly emotional. Motown had no interest in William Bell. His sound was too steeped in gospel and the blues, too Southern, too real for a label trying to sell Cadillac dreams to both black and white America. Stax let him be himself completely.
Now I sit and wonder.
He spent the mid-1960s in the Army, recording when he could, watching from a distance as the label built itself into an empire around Otis Redding and Sam and Dave.
I never thought.
When he came back full time, he delivered one of the most underrated records in soul history. I Forgot to Be Your Lover was released in 1968. It was a quiet, devastating ballad about a man who got so caught up in the business of love that he forgot to actually love. It hit the Pop Top 50. It became one of the most covered songs in soul music. Billy Idol covered it in 1987 under the title To Be a Lover and took it to number 9 on the Hot 100.
Now I realize.
Billy Idol made millions. Bell made almost nothing from that cover. When Stax went bankrupt in 1975, Bell lost his masters, his publishing, his catalog. He walked away with almost nothing from one of the most artistically rich careers in the label's history. He eventually rebuilt on his own terms, winning a Grammy in 2016 for the album This Is Where I Live. A 67-year-old man winning his first Grammy, decades after the system had taken everything from him. Number 4, Sam and Dave, Soul Man, 1967. Sam Moore and Dave Prater met at a Miami gospel club in 1958. They were not supposed to be a duo. They were both trying to win the amateur night prize money individually. The club owner put them together on stage as a joke. The audience went insane. They became Sam and Dave. They shopped themselves to multiple labels through the early 1960s. Nobody bit. Roulette passed. Other New York labels passed. The Motown sound was dominating R&B, and Sam and Dave didn't fit the mold. They were too gospel, too call and response, too raw and physical. Jerry Wexler at Atlantic signed them in 1964 and immediately loaned them to Stax, assigned them to Isaac Hayes and David Porter as their dedicated songwriting and production team. The pairing produced Hold On, I'm Comin' in 1966. It went to number 1 on the R&B chart. Then came When Something Is Wrong With My Baby. Then in 1967, Soul Man. Recorded in one day at 926 East McLemore Avenue. Written by Hayes and Porter. The horn arrangement by Wayne Jackson. The rhythm by Booker T and the MGs. It hit number 2 on the Hot 100 and number 1 on the R&B chart. It won a Grammy for Best Rhythm and Blues Group Performance. It became one of the defining anthems of the Civil Rights era. Then, Atlantic and Stax separated in 1968. Sam and Dave went with Atlantic, away from Hayes and Porter, away from the Stax sound that made them. Their subsequent records flopped. Sam and Dave broke up, got back together, broke up again. Their personal relationship became poisonous. They stopped speaking entirely. Dave Prater died in a car accident in 1988. Sam Moore eventually made peace with the legacy, performing Soul Man with Lou Reed on the Blues Brothers soundtrack, watching it take on new life forever. But the two men who screamed it into existence together never found their way back to each other. Number 3, Carla Thomas, Tramp, 1967/Gee Whiz, 1961. Carla Thomas was Stax before Stax had a name. Her father, Rufus Thomas, was a DJ and entertainer who was one of the first artists to record for the label when it was still called Satellite Records. Carla was a teenager when she recorded Gee Whiz in 1960, a sweet, guileless, genuinely beautiful teenage pop record that became a top 10 pop hit in 1961, putting Stax on the national map for the first time. Motown was building its empire at the exact same moment, and there is no record that Gordy ever considered Carla Thomas for his roster. She was already at Stax, already a hit, already part of a family business that was her family's actual business. She became the Queen of Memphis Soul. She recorded with Otis Redding in 1967 for the duet album King and Queen, one of the great soul recordings of the era. Tramp from that album hit number 2 on the R&B chart. But Thomas was a woman in a male-dominated industry. At Stax, she was valued enormously and still managed less than her male counterparts. When Stax began to collapse in the early 1970s, her recording output slowed dramatically. When the label went bankrupt in 1975, she lost her masters along with everyone else. Unlike Isaac Hayes or Johnnie Taylor, there was no comeback record, no Grammy at 67, no Act 3 that the music world acknowledged. She stepped back from recording and largely stayed there. The Queen of Memphis Soul lost her kingdom when the kingdom fell, and nobody gave her another one. Number 2, Arthur Conley, Sweet Soul Music, 1967. Arthur Conley was 17 years old and singing at a club in Macon, Georgia, when Otis Redding walked in and heard him. He was too young, too raw, too undirected. His voice was enormous, and his stage presence was uncontrollable, and he had no real record deal and no clear future. Otis Redding signed him to his own production company, Otis Records, immediately. Motown would not have taken Arthur Conley. He was Southern, gospel raw, and unfinished in every way that Berry Gordy's finishing school was designed to correct. Redding saw exactly those qualities as the source of everything. Redding produced a song with Conley built on the same rolling groove as Sam Cooke's Yeah Man, a shout out to the soul greats of the era. They named it Sweet Soul Music. It listed Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, Wilson Pickett, Lou Rawls, and James Brown. It was a love letter to an entire generation of Southern soul. Released in 1967 on Atlantic's Atco subsidiary, it hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Number 1 on the R&B chart, it became one of the most joyful, infectious records of the entire decade. Then Otis Redding died in December 1967. Conley lost his patron, his producer, his mentor, and his greatest advocate, all in the same plane crash. He tried to continue. Subsequent records faded. Without Redding guiding the sessions, the magic didn't replicate. By the early 1970s, his chart days were over. He eventually moved to Europe settled in the Netherlands, changed his name, and lived quietly until his death in 2003. He never stopped loving music. But sweet soul music had been such a perfect document of a moment that ended the day Redding's plane hit that Wisconsin lake, that there was nothing left to say after it. Number 1, Mack Rice, Mustang Sally, 1965.
Mustang Sally.
Mack Rice grew up in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and moved to Detroit in his teens. He co-founded the Falcons alongside Eddie Floyd and Wilson Pickett. He was inside the Detroit music world long before Motown had a name, but Berry Gordy's machine had no use for Mack Rice as a performer. He was a raw blues country hybrid from the Mississippi Delta. Not polished enough, not pop enough, not the sound Hitsville was selling. So, when the Falcons fell apart and Floyd went to Stax, Rice followed. He never became a Stax star himself, but he became something more durable, a Stax songwriter. In 1965, Rice wrote a song after watching a woman in Detroit buy herself a Mustang, the brand new Ford model everyone was talking about. He called it Mustang Sally. He recorded it himself. It went nowhere initially. Wilson Pickett heard it and recorded a cover in 1966 at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals. Mustang Sally hit number 6 on the R&B chart. It became one of the most covered and performed songs in the history of American music. Every bar band on earth has played it every Saturday night since 1966. The Commitments made a whole movie around it in 1991. Rice also wrote Respect Yourself for the staple singers at Stax in 1971, a top 15 pop hit that became an anthem of the civil rights movement. He wrote Cheaper to Keep Her for Johnnie Taylor. When Stax went bankrupt in 1975, Rice lost his publishing. The royalties from Mustang Sally, a song performed literally millions of times across the world, were largely inaccessible to him for decades. He spent years fighting to get them back. He sued, he negotiated, he eventually recovered some of what was his, but only some. He died in 2016, having finally seen his songs celebrated for what they were. Still short of everything he deserved, still owed by a system that took his melodies and gave him paperwork in return.
See how strong y'all are.